On June 26, 1973, Pastor John Gray was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. Growing up in a Christian home, Gray's spiritual development was influenced by his early exposure to religion. He attended the University of Cincinnati to further his formal education, but he chose to put his pastoral work ahead of earning a degree since he felt called to ministry. John W. Gray, the fourth and Theory Aspen, Sky Gray are Gray's two children from his marriage to Aventer Gray. He is a well-known personality in modern American Christianity because of his vibrant preaching style and friendly manner. John Gray's work includes writing, television, and preaching. He initially became well known as an associate pastor and musician at Joel Osteen's Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas. Opportunities outside of the pulpit were made possible by his charisma and accessible sermons. For example, he starred in his own reality series, The Book of John Gray, which ran from 2018 to 2019 and followed his ministry and family life. After serving at Lakewood, Gray was appointed as the head pastor of Relentless Church in Greenville, South Carolina. In 2018, his leadership at Relentless prioritized spiritual development, inclusivity, and community outreach. However, it came under fire for financial choices, such as a rumored $250,000 Bentley purchase and disputes over church leases. Win from Within, Finding Yourself by Facing Yourself 2018, and emphasizing personal transformation via faith are some of the works that Gray has written. He has also been a guest speaker at important conferences and appeared on The Preacher's 2016, a chat program that blends spirituality and culture. His ministry, which combines pop culture, humor, and biblical teaching, appeals to a wide range of listeners, but is sometimes criticized for its overtly prosperity-oriented message. First, the 2022 health crisis of Pastor John Gray, a tale of struggle and success. A well-known personality in modern American Christianity, Pastor John Gray is renowned for his leadership at Relentless Church in Greenville, South Carolina, as well as his engaging sermons and approachable demeanor. Gray's life has not been without major obstacles, but his life-threatening health crisis in July 2022 was one of the most crucial. His ministry has inspired many people through sermons, books, and media appearances, a time that put his faith, family, and fortitude to the test. The facts of this horrific event, its effects on Gray's life and ministry, and the wider ramifications of his recovery, which he attributes to divine intervention, are all examined in this essay. Pastor John Gray was on the verge of passing away in July 2022 due to a medical issue. After being diagnosed with a pulmonary embolism, a potentially lethal illness in which a blood clot plugs an artery in the lungs, he was admitted to the hospital in critical condition. Doctors found more blood clots in his legs, which made his situation even worse and put his life in even greater risk. His supporters around the world, as well as his family and church, were horrified by the suddenness of the situation. Given that Gray had been a well-known and involved figure in the ministry, he frequently came across as strong and vivacious while speaking in public. In an honest video that he shared with his audience weeks before to his hospitalization, Gray alluded to underlying health issues. "I hadn't been well for many years," he acknowledged, implying that long-term health problems might have gone undiagnosed or untreated. Gray's vulnerability in sharing this struggle highlighted his ministry's commitment to transparency, but it also raised questions about the pressures of maintaining a public persona while battling private challenges. This revelation added a layer of complexity to his story by highlighting the silent burdens that even public figures carry. The story of Gray's survival revolves around his wife, Aventer Gray, whose quick thinking and intuition were crucial in making sure Gray got timely medical attention. Reports state that Aventer sensed something was seriously wrong and urged immediate action, which probably saved Gray's life. Her role as a supportive partner and advocate during this ordeal demonstrated the strength of their partnership, which has frequently been a focal point of Gray's ministry and their reality series, The Book of John Gray. In the aftermath, Aventer publicly credited her instincts, describing them as a guiding force in the crisis. This moment struck a deep chord with their audience, as many saw Aventer's role as an embodiment of faith in action, reinforcing the couple's message of resilience and unity. Enter's actions reflect a broader theme of familial support in times of crisis. Her ability to act decisively under pressure not only preserved Gray's life, but also became a testament to the power of intuition and partnership. Medical interventions, such as blood thinners and close monitoring, were crucial in stabilizing Gray during his hospitalization, which was a stressful time for his family and supporters. The severity of a pulmonary embolism combined with other blood clots meant that his condition was precarious and recovery was far from guaranteed. In public remarks after his hospitalization, Gray characterized his survival as miraculous, attributing it to divine intervention. His declaration, "I'm going to live and not die," which was taken from Psalm 118:17, became a rallying cry for his supporters and a personal mantra for his recovery. However, Gray and his family framed the ordeal as more than a medical battle, they saw it as a spiritual one. Although the specifics of his recovery process are confidential, Gray's return to public life was characterized by a renewed emphasis on gratitude and purpose. Gray's pulmonary embolism was a wake-up call that led to a re-evaluation of his health and lifestyle. His chronic health struggles, as hinted at in his previous video, suggested that his body had been under strain for years. Gray's ministry was significantly impacted by the 2022 health crisis. As a pastor who frequently preached about overcoming adversity, his personal experience with mortality added authenticity to his message. He shared in sermons and social media posts how the experience deepened his faith and changed his perspective on life, encouraging others to prioritize health and trust in God's plan. Congregants at Relentless Church and viewers of his online platforms rallied around him, with many sharing stories of how his survival inspired their own faith journeys. Gray's ability to incorporate this experience into his sermons strengthened his connection with audiences who saw him as a relatable figure navigating universal human struggles. His recovery became a living testimony, reinforcing his teachings about faith, resilience, and divine protection. Though there is no concrete evidence that his health crisis was caused by his previous controversies, the timing of the crisis sparked speculation about the toll of public life on his health. Gray's public persona, which was characterized by high-profile controversies like financial decisions and marital challenges, led some critics to wonder if stress from these issues contributed to his health decline. Pastor John Gray's health crisis is a case study in the intersection of faith, health, and public life. Gray's candor about his ongoing health issues also spurred conversations about the necessity for public figures, especially pastors, to prioritize self-care despite their demanding positions. While Gray's recovery emphasized the role of faith in overcoming adversity, his story also prompted broader conversations about health disparities, especially among African American men who face higher risks of conditions like pulmonary embolisms due to systemic factors like limited access to healthcare and chronic stress. For many, his survival served as a powerful reminder of the frailty of life and the importance of community support. Enter's role highlighted the critical influence of loved ones in navigating crisis. A test of faith, marriage, and public ministry. Pastor John Gray's marital and infidelity allegations 2019-2020. Early in 2019, there were reports that Pastor John Gray had an emotional affair with another woman. The accusations, which gained traction on social media and entertainment news outlets, implied that Gray had communicated inappropriately with the woman, going beyond boundaries that jeopardized his marital vows. Even though there was no physical infidelity claimed in the allegations, the idea of an emotional affair with close, non-physical ties was enough to spark public outrage, especially considering Gray's position as a pastor who upholds spiritual integrity and family values. Gray publicly responded to the accusations by acknowledging improper communication, but vehemently disputing any physical infidelity. Although his admissions sought to take responsibility and shed light on the nature of the controversy, it also exposed him to intense scrutiny for a pastor whose ministry placed a strong emphasis on authenticity and transparency. In a statement, he admitted his mistakes, characterizing the interactions as a lapse in judgment rather than a betrayal of his marriage. Both brave and dangerous, the admissions sparked more discussion about his leadership and character. The accusations severely damaged Gray's marriage to Aventer Gray, his wife of more than 10 years and a vital partner in his ministry. Known for her strength and outspokenness, Enter openly discussed the hurt caused by the controversy in interviews and on their own reality show, The Book of John Gray. She openly shared the emotional toll of the allegations, describing feelings of betrayal and hurt, but Aventer also showed her dedication to their marriage by sticking by Gray through the crisis. and her choice to support her without downplaying her pain became a central theme in the couple's story, which focused on forgiveness and reconciliation. The couple's openness about their marital difficulties was both commended and criticized. Viewers were given a rare glimpse into the private lives of a well-known pastoral couple through scenes of candid conversations, therapy sessions, and vulnerable moments on the Book of John Gray, which ran from 2018 to 2019. For some viewers, this transparency humanized the Grays, demonstrating their dedication to healing and fitting with their ministry's message of redemption. Others questioned whether it was appropriate to broadcast such private matters on television, and the public's reaction to the scandal was sharply divided. Gray supporters, including many members of Relentless Church, saw his admission as a step toward accountability, while critics claimed it blurred the boundaries between ministry and entertainment. They valued his readiness to own up to his errors in public, because they believed it aligned with his teachings on forgiveness and second chances. Fans' social media messages frequently reference biblical forgiveness concepts, claiming that Gray's humanity should not overwhelm his purpose. Avenner's decision to support him further reinforced this viewpoint, with several hailing her as a role model of faith and resiliency. Critics, however, were less forgiving, accusing Gray of avoiding full responsibility by downplaying the seriousness of the emotional affair by emphasizing his denial of physical infidelity. Given his past scandals, including extravagant lifestyle choices, many questioned whether Gray's public apologies were sincere or just a ploy to repair the damage. Supporters viewed the transparency on the Book of John Gray as a brave act of vulnerability, while critics said it exploited the couple's suffering for ratings. Some critics said the scandal reflected larger problems in megachurch culture, where pastors frequently face minimal consequences for personal failings due to their celebrity status. Gray's credibility as a pastor and a leader who frequently spoke about family integrity and overcoming personal shortcomings was put to the test by the accusations and the controversy that followed. His teachings were scrutinized, and some questioned whether he could truly help others navigate marital difficulties while dealing with his own. On the other hand, supporters contended that Gray's struggles made him more relatable. The controversy brought to light the pressures of leading a high-profile ministry, and Gray's exposure through books, speaking engagements, and television heightened the scrutiny he faced. The experience also highlighted the paradox of public ministry. Pastors are supposed to be moral role models, but their humanity frequently becomes a point of contention when flaws are revealed. In contrast to a local pastor with a smaller congregation, Gray's errors were broadcast nationally, exposing him to constant media attention and public criticism. The scandal came at the same time as other problems at Relentless Church, such as a lease dispute and financial issues, which further fueled perceptions of instability in his leadership. The accusations of infidelity and marital infidelity against Pastor John Gray provide insights into the demands of spiritual leaders and the complexities of public ministry. The scandal raised questions about accountability in megachurches, where charisma and influence can sometimes shield pastors from consequences. All of these issues combined to create a turbulent period for Gray, testing his resilience and commitment to his calling. The polarized responses on X and other platforms mirrored broader cultural debates about forgiveness, privacy, and the intersection of faith and celebrity. Gray's case also demonstrated how media outlets and social media platforms shape public perception by amplifying the controversy and frequently prioritizing sensationalism over nuance. Discussions concerning the role of pastoral spouses, who frequently carry the emotional burden of public scandals while putting on a supportive front, were particularly triggered by Enter Gay's response, which defied conventional norms of silence by publicly addressing her pain and providing an example of strength and agency. The scandal highlighted the toll of public life on personal relationships, and the demands of ministry, and Gray's demanding media career probably contributed to the vulnerabilities that led to the emotional affair. The couple's transparency, though controversial, also sparked discussions about marital reconciliation, showing that even well-known individuals face universal challenges. Third, Pastor John Gray's childhood trauma, shaping identity, ministry, and resilience. Pastor John Gray has been open about the difficulties he faced growing up in Cincinnati, Ohio, where feelings of rejection and insecurity took root in his early years. This part of the story made me think about the need for accountability structures, self-care, and boundaries for pastors who frequently navigate their roles without enough support. Gray has mentioned emotional pain, such as struggles with self-worth and a sense of not belonging, which are common among people who experience childhood trauma and are often caused by familial dynamics, social environments, or personal setbacks that leave lasting imprints on one's psyche. However, specific details of his childhood experiences are not always fully elaborated in public forums. In sermons, Gray has explained how rejection and insecurity appeared as internal conflicts that impacted his sense of identity and self-worth. These experiences became pivotal points in Gray's narrative, forming his worldview and igniting his desire to connect with others who share his wounds. In a culture that often expects spiritual leaders to project strength, Gray's willingness to publicly name these feelings marked a bold departure from traditional pastoral personas and set the stage for his ministry's emphasis on vulnerability. These struggles are not unusual because childhood trauma, whether from overt abuse, neglect, or subtler forms of emotional disconnection, can lead to long-term challenges in forming healthy relationships and self-perception. Gray's personal identity and ministry style were significantly shaped by his childhood trauma. In his 2020 YouTube series, FaceTime, he described how his early experiences of rejection and insecurity led him to seek validation, which ultimately resulted in a closer relationship with God. As a pastor, Gray's experiences with trauma shaped his sermons, which frequently combined biblical teachings with personal anecdotes. This process of facing his past was not linear. He has called it a painful but necessary path to self-discovery. By embracing his insecurities, he developed a ministry style that prioritizes authenticity, encouraging others to embrace their imperfections as part of their spiritual growth. Gray's leadership at Relentless Church placed a strong emphasis on inclusivity and healing, reflecting his belief that facing one's past is crucial for spiritual and emotional wholeness. His ability to relate his childhood struggles to universal themes of pain and redemption resonated with audiences, especially those who felt marginalized or overlooked. This theme is further explored in his 2018 book, Win from Within, Finding Yourself by Facing Yourself, which exhorts readers to confront internal wounds in order to unlock their potential. Gray's vulnerability set him apart in the megachurch landscape, where pastors are frequently expected to embody unattainable ideals, and his ministry became a platform to transform personal pain into a collective call for reconciliation with God and self. While many were inspired by Gray's openness, it also highlighted the emotional cost of his personal development. By disclosing his experiences with rejection, he questioned the idea that spiritual leaders need to be perfect and instead presented himself as a work in progress, which humanized him and complemented his message that God's grace is sufficient for everyone, regardless of their past. For Gray, the responsibilities of public ministry, where he was constantly scrutinized and held to high standards, added to the difficult process of confronting childhood trauma, which requires people to revisit traumatic memories and question strongly held ideas about themselves. Given previous difficulties like his 2019 marital scandal and financial disputes, his candor regarding rejection and insecurity needed a great deal of courage because it exposed him at risk of criticism from peers, congregations, and the general public. Gray's vulnerabilities were probably made worse by processing trauma while leading a megachurch and being in the media. His health crisis in 2022, which included a potentially fatal pulmonary embolism, suggested that he was dealing with chronic stress and health issues, which might have been impacted by the weight of his public and personal struggles. Pastor John Gray's candor about his childhood trauma offers important insights into the intersection of personal healing, public ministry, and societal expectations. By sharing his experience, Gray not only invited empathy, but also put himself at risk of being seen as less than the idealized image of a pastor, highlighting the delicate balance between vulnerability and leadership. His story dispels the stigma associated with mental and emotional health, especially in religious communities where these subjects are frequently taboo. Gray crosses spiritual and psychological boundaries by promoting reconciliation with God as a means of healing, inspiring others to seek both divine and pragmatic support. Like counseling, Gray's ministry has been sustained by his ability to connect through personal testimony, whether it be health battles, marital struggles, or past trauma. This approach is in line with growing cultural conversations about mental health, particularly among African American communities, where historical trauma and systemic challenges amplify the need for open dialogue. Gray's narrative highlights the difficulties of living a public life while overcoming personal and spiritual challenges, while supporters view his tenacity as proof of divine purpose. Critics contend that his controversies are a reflection of larger problems in megachurch culture.